मुझको जागीर सबसे बड़ी उस खुदा की मुझ पर नजर जो पड़ी। ऐ खुदा जब से तुझको जाना है, जब से तुझको जाना है, ऐ खुदा जब से तुझको जाना है, जब से तुझको जाना है, तब से दिल में तेरा आशियाना है। ऐ खुदा जब से तुझको जाना है, जब से तुझको जाना है, तब से दिल में तेरा आशियाना है। अब न मांगेंगे हिफाजत ज़माने से, हुआ महफूज दिल तेरे आने से। अब न मांगेंगे हिफाजत ज़माने से।
Om Shanti. Good morning. Is it good morning? Wonderful to have you this morning. Audio is okay? Okay. I was really touched by the last line, the last thing Baba was sharing yesterday. He said, what else would you need once you have such a firm stage? You know, this wealth, I was thinking a lot about wealth yesterday because he spoke of it a lot. And what is wealth for us? Obviously it's going to be something we take with us, so something within the soul, and sometimes we say purity is the highest currency, and he will speak about purity today a lot. but I just thought, wow, the wealth of a good stage like this. What is most valuable? What is worth the most to us? And the value of a good stage. And, was just in this meeting. It was for the silence retreat, and for me, the feeling is, it was very touching to be in the meeting, because for those who attended, the contributions, the visual, everything, was of such high quality. But if you had seen the look on, Sister Elizabeth was there, so she was coordinating the Anubhuti contributions. If you had seen the look on her face in the first meeting she came to, when it was explained, the vision and the ask, the only look was a deer in headlights. My heart literally, I was like, can I come there? I can't help, but you could just feel it was so overwhelming. So overwhelming. And she already has a very full plate, and, but she said, Haji. And we're not experienced, in movie production. Anoli Ben maybe is, but none of us are. And yet, it was like National Geographic, the quality of what was produced. And I had to ask, I don't know if you recall, there was one shot at the ocean where they went out through a rock. I said, how did that shot happen? And she said, well, we had a brother who had never used a drone before, so this was completely new to him. I'm like, you've got to be kidding. Because it was like an expert, like so and she said, I turned my back for a moment to address the group, because this is a new drone, it's very... and I looked out and I thought, the drone was way... the drone had to go out there to take that. It was way out, and she's like, get the drone back now. He's like, no, we want to go through the hole. She's like, get the drone back. That shot took you right into Baba's heart, which was his vision, right? That you're entering the doorway into Baba's world, the ocean. And then she shared about the Lebanese brother, the one who only has 6 hours of electricity every day, and who was so happy. She said she had one Zoom meeting, she saw his face, and when Baba says, you serve with your face, she could tell from his face he was so committed to Baba, so happy to make this contribution. He was going to renounce his personal quota of electricity to be able to edit these videos. He did the forest videos, which everyone raves about, the editing on the production on those. So you're listening to these stories, and your only thought is, Baba does so much. Baba wants this to happen for the family, because we're all completely amateur. All we bring is love in our hearts. We have no skills in this whatsoever. So we can't ever say how much Baba does. That's my feeling, is he's so in love with these crazy projects the kids get up to. And he's like, okay, they can do 5%, I'll do the 95%. But they have to do 5%. If they give me 5%, I can do wonders. But if they give me nothing, I can't do anything. Right? I can't go against the law of karma. So this is, Baba does so much, we can never dismiss it. But the feeling in the Murli yesterday and today is, we're doing 100%, right? He says, if you do nothing, nothing's going, you've got to do this. You've got to do this. This deep feeling inside of, you are responsible. Do you have that feeling? Right? That sense of personal responsibility is very high for those who are of Devta quality. Their hearts are very much about, I don't want to take anymore. I'm tired of taking. I am a bestower. And these little ways, Baba talked about greed yesterday. Were you thinking about this yesterday? How many different little ways we try to take value. Forget about, I had an extra serving of pancakes, that's nothing. Or more popcorn, that's nothing. That's not greed. These little forms that go against the heart of a deity, these little forms of manipulating and taking and begging, and these are sins to you. These feel very heavy in your heart. So he says, you are of a certain caste, you are deity of souls, you want to give, you want to take responsibility for yourself. Like he's really speaking to our heart. So it feels like love to us when he starts to... It feels like so much love because, yes, I want this, I want this. So this feeling today of purity is everything. You want to become pure, don't you? It would make your heart happy. Then no problem for you to take that responsibility, whatever is required to become pure. Because again, what more do you need once you have that firm stage of purity? So he's really winning our hearts today with what he does, the way he speaks. The essence, sweet children, the Father, the conqueror of hearts, has come to win the hearts of you children. The Father, the conqueror of hearts, has come to win the hearts of you children. Has he won your heart? Has he been successful? Therefore become those with clean hearts. So this is the sign that, yes, he's won my heart, is that I become one with a clean heart. So it's not just a romantic turn of phrase, there is a sign that he's won my heart. I become one with a clean heart. The question, on what main basis is a golden aged status claimed? On what main basis is a golden aged status claimed? And the answer, on the basis of purity. The main thing is purity. Explain to those who come to the center. This is a main point. If you don't become pure, the knowledge will not stay in your intellect. So purity is our cleverness, not intellectual. If you don't become pure, the knowledge will not stay in your intellect. If, while studying yoga, you become impure, everything will be ruined. Everything drains out of the intellect. If someone doesn't remain pure, it doesn't matter if he doesn't come to class. You mustn't be concerned about that. This is a very beautiful point. Because we're seeing someone not coming to class, and we're so afraid of talking about purity, but we're trying to get them, says, well, you're not helping them. Until you establish clarity around purity, they're going to leave again. Right? So what you should be concerned about isn't, I've got to get the numbers in class, but I've got to communicate the importance of purity. And then let it go where it will go, but I must communicate that. To the extent that someone studies and becomes pure, to that extent, he will become wealthy. To the extent that someone studies and becomes pure, to that extent he will become wealthy. And the Gita today, at last the day for which we had been waiting, has come. Om Shanti. And the answer? To the extent that someone studies and becomes pure, to that extent he will become wealthy. Om Shanti. You spiritual children know that day has now come again. Which day? Only you children know that the original eternal deity religion of heaven is once again being established in Bharat. That is, the kingdom of Lakshmi Narayan is being established. So, you children should be so happy that the Purifier Father, to whom you have been calling out, has come. He alone is the liberator and guide and the remover of sorrow and bestower of happiness after he had liberated you. Because he did that last cycle, didn't he? How did you become trapped again? He says, I liberate you and then you get trapped again. How does this happen every cycle? No one knows this. It takes so much effort to explain to human beings who have such stone intellects. Look what duty he has been given. He's a laundryman. Come and clean the dirty, impure clothes. Both souls and bodies of deities only are both pure. In the kingdom of Ravan, no one's body can be pure. The bodies are impure. No one knows these things. Perhaps when the soul is pure, so if he has just arrived, he is able to make an impression. However, he too will go through this. Souls have to become impure. The unlimited Father, the Purifier, comes and says, these 5 vices are devilish. Renounce them. If you don't listen to me, you will be harassed by Dharmraj, the Supreme Judge. If you don't listen to the Almighty Authority, there will be very severe punishment from Dharmraj. The Father has come to purify you. You know you were pure deities. Is that deeply accepted? I was a pure deity. And I have now become impure. So you must instantly let go of that. Body consciousness is the devil's dictates, and this also has to be renounced. The number 1 vice has to be renounced. A day will come when impure beings will not be able to sit with the Father in this gathering. No one impure will be allowed. Remove the dirty, impure ones from here. They won't be allowed to enter the court of Indra. Then no matter how wealthy or whatever else someone may be, whoever they know, they won't be able to enter. Everything may be explained to them outside, but they wouldn't be allowed to come in. Now they are allowed to come so that they can be tempted, but this will not be the case later on. If Baba hears that an impure person is sitting here, Baba will not like it. There are many such ones who come and sit here secretly. Such ones will have to experience a lot of punishment. People go to temples and religious places only after bathing. No one would go there without bathing. That is physical bathing. This is the bathing of knowledge. One has to be pure in this too. Even non-vegetarians are not allowed to come. When the time comes, Baba will become strict. Look how strong the path of devotion is in the world. Those who read a lot of scriptures receive the title of Shastri, which is a degree in the Sanskrit language. What would you do by learning Sanskrit, etc.? The Father says, forget everything. All we want to learn now is purity. Simply remember the one Father, and you will become pure and the masters of the land of Vishnu. When you have understood this very well, when you realize this, you will forget all the scriptures, etc., very naturally. People study to become barristers, etc., but this study, which the knowledgeful Supreme Soul comes and teaches you, it is the highest of all. People say to him, "O purifier, come." However, they don't know they are impure. Baba continues to explain that the Golden Age is called the Kingdom of Ram, and the Iron Age is called the Kingdom of Ravan. At this time, all are impure. The pure deity idols are worshipped in the temples, and it is impure people who go and bow down in front of them. This proves that those deities are the highest of all in their purity. They are even higher than the sannyasis. Temples are not built to sannyasis. Now that people have gone into Tamil Pradhan devotion, they keep pictures of those people. It is called Tamil Pradhan devotion. So in Tamil Pradhan devotion, yes, they have these pictures of the sannyasis and different bodily beings, the worship of human beings, and the 5 elements. When devotion was Sato Pradhan, it was the worship of one. That is called unadulterated devotion. He is the one who made the deities so elevated. Therefore, worship should also be of only the one. However, something else happens because this drama is predestined. Everyone has to go through the stages of Sato Pradhan, Sato, Rajo, and Tamo. It is the same here. Some become Sato Pradhan, some become Sato, some become Rajo, and others become Tamo. There is first-class cleanliness in the Golden Age. Bodies have no value there. Bodies have no value there. So we're right side up. What's valuable is the soul. So when the soul leaves the body, the electricity is switched on and they are destroyed. They wouldn't even throw the bones into the river, etc. Nothing is of value. They wouldn't even pick the bodies up and take them somewhere else. He's finding this all very odd, right? So we take the body, we put it in a nice box, and then we take it somewhere else. No. And have you, I remember, even we do this now, they have the body in Madhuban and then they have to carry it to the cremation ground. It's a long track. It's a lot of difficulty, right? And these brothers are carrying it. It's not easy. But there, you don't pick it up and take it somewhere else. No, there's no question of any difficulty.
It's funny you mentioned that this time when Fadadi was out, they were bringing.
Oh, it was.
Almost feeling it was going.
Are they going to lose the body? Are they going to slip up? And what I loved about that, even the body had the same stage as Gulzar Dadi. It's completely, even though it's about to fall off its carriage. I was laughing. I thought it's got the same vibration as Gulzar Dadi. Whatever you do with me, I'm completely with Baba. It doesn't matter. It's very good stage for the body even. As soon as the electricity is switched on, they are finished. But here, people cry over bodies. Baba's finding it remarkable. Here people cry over bodies. They continually remember them and also feed Brahmin priests to invoke that soul. None of these things will exist there. Everything has to be done, really understood with the intellect. What will exist there? Just imagine what heaven will be like, the viceless world. This is hell, the land of falsehood. This is why we say Maya is false, the body is false, and the world is false. It is remembered this way. And then I like the next point Baba says, the government says, stop slaughtering cows. So we have firm vegans who are saying, this is incredible violence, stop slaughtering cows. And you write to them, that slaughter is not the worst kind of slaughter. This slaughter of lust is much worse. Stop the slaughter of using the sword of lust on one another. Lust is the greatest enemy. It causes sorrow from its beginning through the middle to the end. So conquer it. It is the cause of so much sorrow. Do you agree? How many little forms of lust are there during the day? Conquer it. Become pure. Very clean heart. Become pure. And you will become the masters of the pure world. There, the deities truly have new blood. It is said, children here, the youth, have new blood. However, how could there be new blood here? Everything here is old. This is old blood. In the golden age, where you receive new bodies, there will be new blood. These bodies are old, and the blood is also old. This is why they have to be renounced. You have to become pure. No one apart from the Father can purify you. Everyone's religion is different. They all have to study their own religious scripture. The Gita is the main one in Sanskrit. The Father says, I don't teach in Sanskrit. I only explain to you in whatever language the chariot, this Brahma, knows. If I were to speak in Sanskrit, how would you children understand? And it is not the language of deities. So often Sanskrit is elevated, put as this very elevated language of the gods. It's not the language of deities. Sometimes daughters come and speak the language of another place. By learning languages, some earn hundreds of thousands and some earn millions for their livelihood. Here, you are earning so much, becoming so wealthy. It's the language of purity. Here you are earning so much. You know that you will become emperors and empresses in the golden age. The more you study, the wealthier you will become. There is a difference between the poor and the wealthy. Yes, everyone is happy, but there's a difference between the poor and the wealthy. Everything depends on purity. Explain to those who come to the centers, if you don't remain pure, the knowledge will not stay in your intellects. If after coming to take knowledge for 5 to 7 days you become impure, the knowledge will be finished. If while studying yoga you become impure, everything will be ruined. If someone is unable to remain pure, it doesn't matter if he doesn't come here. You shouldn't be concerned about that. Each of you has a burden of the sins of many births on your own head. You should be concerned about that. How can that be removed without your having remembrance? Liberation in life in a second has been remembered. Do whatever the Father says. Do whatever the Father says. The whole world calls out, "O purifier, come, we are impure, so unhappy." However, no one becomes pure, and so no one can return home. Those people consider the Brahm element to be God, and so they remember that. No one has the knowledge of who God is. Neither is Brahm God, nor can anyone merge into the Brahm element. It's very interesting when we introduce the ideas of the mind and the intellect. And we say that the mind loves to fill. It loves to fill, whereas the intellect likes to focus. It likes to get to the point. So you can imagine if I'm having yoga with the Brahm element, there's a lot of pleasing the mind, right? This vast experience of dead zone that just feels so zen, so blissed out, so gone, right? But there's nothing actually happening to the soul. The intellect likes to focus. The Baba is a subtle point. So you can see what's really being served by what I'm having yoga with. So much depends on the intellect. No one has the knowledge of who God is. Neither is Brahm God, nor can anyone merge into the Brahm element. Nevertheless, everyone has to take rebirth because souls are imperishable. They believe that Buddha went back home into nirvana. However, he would definitely have to sustain what he established, taking rebirth. Otherwise, who would sustain it? How could he go back home? You won't say you will go and sit in liberation for all time. You know you are establishing your own religion, and so you will then also sustain it. That religion was pure, but everyone has now become impure. Only those who belong to this religion will come. The sapling is being planted. The sweetest tree is of the deity religion. The task of its establishment is being carried out. All the scriptures, etc., that have been created, they're all for the path of devotion. It is the praise of Baba alone that he comes and changes human beings into deities. Therefore, remember very well the Father who makes you become like that. So we're very touched by what we are becoming, and the one who makes us become like that. So it has to be so meaningful what he is making us become. I look at the picture of Lakshmi Narayan, and it has so much meaning for me. Like the fragrance of that level of dignity and divinity. Very, very elevated beings. And that really touches our heart, really wins our heart. I want to become like that because that was my original stage. So of course the one who makes me that, there's only one being who can make me become like that. There is nobody else. You also know that according to the drama, the path of devotion has to continue. In fact, the bestower of salvation for all is only one. Therefore only one should be worshipped. Having taken 84 births, the deities who were Sato Pradhan have become Tamo Pradhan. I now have to become Sato Pradhan again. You can only become that by having remembrance of Baba. No one except the Father has the power to make you that. You just have to remember the one. This is unadulterated remembrance. To remember many is adulteration. Each one of you souls knows that Shiva is your Baba. This is why, wherever you look, you see them worshipping Shiva. They even place an image of Shiva in front of the deities. But do the deities worship anyone? In fact, the deities don't worship anyone. It is remembered, everyone remembers God at times of sorrow, but in happiness no one remembers him. Therefore, how could the deities worship anyone? So that is wrong. They should not be shown falsely giving praise. They, the deities, don't even know Shiv Baba, that they would remember him. So that picture should be removed. Instead, you should show the image of the worshippers with single crowns, so those from the Copper Age. None of the sages or holy men have a crown of light. This is why even Brahmins cannot be shown with a crown of light. So those who pay full attention to knowledge will continue to make these corrections. No one has become free from making mistakes. Mistakes continue to be made. The picture of the Trimurti is so good. That's the Father and this is Dada. Baba says, remember me, and you will become this, the one in the middle. Become soul conscious. Become soul conscious. The soul says, so this very pure stage, I don't have attachment to anyone except the Father. While living here, we remember the land of peace and the land of happiness. The land of sorrow now has to be renounced. However, until our new home is ready, we have to live in the old one. But we have no attachment. We have to become worthy of going to the new home. When souls become pure, they will go home. It's so easy. The main thing is to be understood, is who God is and who Dada is. The Father gives the inheritance, so it's the grandfather. The Father gives the inheritance through this one. Baba says, children, man manabhav, remember me, and you will become pure deities in the Golden Age. That is sheer magic. All we have to do is remember that incorporeal being, and we will become deities in the Golden Age. Is that not incredible? Everyone else stays in the land of liberation at that time. Only the Father takes all souls to the land of peace. It is so easy. You children should have a lot of happiness. Let your hearts be very clean. It is said, when your heart is clean, so actually free of all desires, then all your desires are fulfilled. The heart is in the soul. The true beloved is the Father of all souls. The Father is called the conqueror of hearts, the one who wins your heart. He comes to win everyone's heart. He comes and wins everyone's heart at the right time, at the confluence age. The Supreme Soul is the one who wins the hearts of souls, whereas human beings win the hearts of human beings. So only one who can win the hearts of souls. So otherwise it's human beings winning the hearts of human beings. Very beautiful point. In the kingdom of Ravan, they all hurt the feelings of one another. The picture of the Trimurti was also explained to you children in the previous cycle, and this is why it has emerged now too. You will recognize it. So it definitely has to be explained. So many pictures have now been created with which one can explain. The picture of the ladder is very good. In spite of that, people don't understand it. O people of Bharat, you're the ones who have taken 84 births. This is now your final birth. We only speak good things. Why do you say that you have not taken 84 births? In that case, you won't go to heaven. You would then come again in hell. They don't want to go to heaven. Bharat has to become heaven. This is an account that has to be understood. Maharatis can explain it very well. There has to be enthusiasm for doing service, for making a donation to someone. If someone doesn't have any wealth, he wouldn't think about donating. First of all, ask them, with what desire have you come here? So with what desire have you come here? This used to be, it still is, I think, one of the first questions we ask soul. Why have you come here? When they come and take the first course, why have you come here? There is no question of having a glimpse of a guru here. Claim unlimited happiness from the unlimited Father. There are two fathers. Everyone remembers the unlimited Father, again at the time of sorrow. Come and understand how you receive the unlimited inheritance from the unlimited Father. Only those who are to understand this will understand it. If that person is someone who is going to claim the kingdom, he will understand instantly. It was very sweet yesterday when Baba said, convert everyone to the Brahmin religion so they can become a deity. But he is explaining, only those who are to understand this will understand it. If that person is someone who's going to claim the kingdom, he will understand instantly. The Father says, while living at home, while doing everything, simply remember Baba. For it is only by remembering him that your sins will be erased. Acha. To the sweetest beloved, long lost and now found children, love, remembrance, and good morning from the Mother, the Father, Bap Dada. The spiritual Father says Namaste to the spiritual children, and the spiritual children say Namaste to the spiritual Father. Essence for Dharana 1. Never hurt the feelings of others. Have the enthusiasm to do service. If you have the wealth of knowledge, you must definitely donate it. And number 2, make yourself worthy of going to the new home. Make yourself the soul pure with the power of remembrance. Very interesting blessing. May you be incorporeal. And use all your ornaments with your own stage to overcome all adverse situations. Those who keep all their ornaments can never have arrogance of their bodies. To be incorporeal and use all your ornaments, usually it's Vishnu, the one in the middle, who's shown with the ornaments. So to be incorporeal and use all your ornaments is to be Mana Bhav and Madhyaji Bhav. When you are stable in your own original stage, you can easily overcome all adverse situations, and all your different old types of nature will finish by doing this. When you see the intentions of yourself, the soul, all things of conflict of nature finish. You can then develop in yourself the power to face all situations. Very interesting stage Baba is cueing us into. May you be incorporeal and use all your ornaments with your stage to overcome all adverse situations. Those who keep all their ornaments can never have arrogance of their bodies. To be incorporeal and use all your ornaments is to be Mana Bhav and Madhyaji Bhav. When you are stable in your own original stage, you can easily overcome all adverse situations, and all your different old types of nature will finish by doing this. When you see the intentions of yourself, the soul, all things of conflict of nature finish. You can then develop in yourself the power to face all situations. And the slogan, take one step just in thought, and the Father will take 1,000 steps of giving cooperation. So take one step just in thought, and the Father will take 1,000 steps of giving cooperation. That one pure thought has so much power. And our signal today, remain unshakable, immovable, free from obstacles, free from bondages, free from sinful thoughts and sinful karma. That is, be, connected to the blessing, be incorporeal, viceless, and egoless. Stay in these stages and you will be able to become karmatit. So this is quite a list. Remain unshakable, immovable, free from obstacles, free from bondages, free from sinful thoughts and sinful karma. That is, be incorporeal, viceless, and egoless. Stay in these stages and you will be able to become karmatit. That should be easy to accomplish. Such elevated destinations we are given. So we are going to go into our reflection. We have a lot to chew on from Baba, and then we'll hear what you have to share after. Om Shanti. I know you have to fly, Jima Ben. Have a good day. You're is that jogging or flying or running? All right. Take care, Om Shanti. Anyone else wish to share? We have a mic.
No.
I can give you this one.
I had a question.
Okay.
Just wanted. Yes, there is constant happiness in golden age for everyone. So there's no trace of sorrow. How is the happiness of Lakshmi Narayan versus a royal prince or princess versus a subject versus a maid or servant? How does it trickle down, and what does that quality look like?
Certainly something that you can reflect on more on your same and on your own, and the feeling of what really makes each of those different souls content with their efforts that the confluence age is going to map onto. Because I'm sorry, this is unfortunately the best example coming to mind, but I've noticed in a fitness class, everyone's very different with a different quality of output. There is an ideal or an absolute, but as you look, everyone's doing different things and they are content with that effort. Even, and so it will result with it will lead to a different result, what they're doing, and they will be content with that result as well. So really it's connected to the Murli today in terms of Baba conquering our heart. What makes your heart happy? And what makes the heart of Lakshmi Narayan happy is very different from what the heart of a prince or a wealthy subject or a maid or servant. What really, and it is connected to that degree of personal transformation. Like what will, when we look at it's fascinating, we look at the Narayan soul in his final birth. I think anyone would look on the servant and say, he has a happy life. Dada Lakridge has a very good life. He has wonderful family, wonderful business, lots of wealth. For many, that would make them very happy. And yet we look at the journal, we look inside, the soul is restless. What is the cause of their sorrow? The lack of self-mastery. Right? That's the cause that's what their heart is craving, is that level of purity, that self-mastery. So the Narayan soul has a remarkably high level of benevolence. So they are Bapsaman, right? That's the only way their heart will be happy, is at the confluence age. They make full effort to become Bapsaman. This is completely different from what's going to make a wealthy subject. Like, I'm able to control every aspect of my life. They're still using knowledge to make their family happy. Whereas, it's a bit connected to what Daddy Gulzar would share at Amrit Vela. I just want to be with Baba. I'm not churning knowledge. I have no service projects. I'm just completely absorbed in becoming equal to that one and being close to that one. That's it. So the quality of effort now really maps onto the quality of happiness at that time. And both of those are determined by how the heart is structured. So it's so difficult subjectively to appreciate, because it's like, but I am making effort. The same effort that Brahma's making, I'm making effort to make my heart happy with the problem, but the issue is our hearts are all constructed differently. We could say intellect if we want. So what is the sensitivity or intellect of an Narayan soul in his final birth? What type of effort does he make? What does he feel he needs to become? Is so different for each soul that's studying with Baba. And so, the happiness, what makes the Narayan soul happy? Really. And I just keep coming back to, it was so connected to the question today of, golden age status. And many say, I'm not interested in status. But the Narayan soul would be absolutely intoxicated with that question of golden, because to them status means a very high level of benevolence. Very high. Benevolence, very high. Server, benevolent, the bestower. Very high capacity to sustain, to bestow, to benefit. Like this is their heart. When Baba was talking about you start a religion and then you'll need to sustain it, the feeling that flashed through my mind, it's difficult to articulate, is even in his last birth, the Narayan soul is still concerned about bestowing. He renounces everything. He surrenders completely to be the instrument through which the yajna is established. The Narayan soul is still sustaining because it's cyclical, right? So he's like sustaining in the sense that he's now involved in the establishment of this is unique, and that makes him happy. Others will look at him and say, the renunciation, the tirelessness, the lack of sleep. I'm sorry, that's not, even Brahmins don't surrender or renounce to that degree. So that soul's heart is so unique. What would fulfill that heart is such a high level of purity, such a high level of benevolence, egoless, bestowing, very different from what would make other hearts happy. So I really liked this idea of Baba coming to win our heart. Baseline for everyone in the Golden Age, purity. This is how he wins our heart. He speaks about purity and how to become pure, because that's baseline. And then you build from there, you build on top of this foundation of purity or soul consciousness. What really makes the heart happy at this time? What quality of effort at this time? And we see for the Narayan soul, the emperor, such a level of renunciation for the sake of humanity. Right? And it's not like a sacrifice or martyr. It's renouncing to something very specific, to the truth. So I feel that their happiness is connected to such a level of purity and elevation and benevolence. They are Bapsaman. They are God, if you will, at that time. If God was to become a deity, there is no desires. Right? There's no desires. Of course, no one has desires, but these souls are so bestowing. We see that in all of them, the daddies, all of them, like unlimited hearts. I think that's the only reason this went international. Is they didn't think, Hindi speaking and Gujarati and Maharashtra and all this great. They didn't think this, they have such a different heart. It's the only reason it went international. Souls now think my center. It was very beautiful on the silence call this came up, because it was Anubhuti and Peace Village. And even though they're in the same country, by physical distance, they don't really connect. They kind of operate separately. But what they said they enjoyed so much is they actually felt like one retreat center. It takes a certain kind of consciousness to have that experience and sustain it. This is really, we get into my center or my language or my family, and it makes us happy when we see things happening at that level. But Brahma Baba was like humanity. All of my brothers, and every it's like until everyone down to the last one has to be benefited. This is a Narayan heart. And I remember once it was in a team building, and the question was asked, what 2 things do you want to focus on? These are the fitness instructors. What 2 things do you want to focus on in the coming year? And every year it was this. I'm trying to think of things that are connected to fitness and yet really Brahman. And something that was always coming up was, I pay more attention to the people at the back of the room. This is so how Baba, he's always saying, those are the back of the room, those who aren't even seated here. I'm aware of every single, not just the ones in front. If you're very limited, then you think he's just, because he's looking at them. but a soul who's just so unlimited, and at this time, bestowing in such an unlimited way. It's the only reason I think, these pure feelings that Baba can use, that we're sitting here now, that it went outside of India, is they never saw. And I always have felt that, when I visit Madhuban and those Navasis who, you can just feel they're so universal. Like it's not language or anything like this. You can just connect. They're so universal that they have very high status because they're bestowing in such an unlimited way. So do I get into my very small heart? Or do I have very big heart at this time? Yes, me first, I have, in terms of that transformation, as Baba said, in terms of personal transformation, very, very deep effort. Baba said, patience, depth, sincerity, very deep effort. But in terms of, very unlimited, I won't be happy unless everyone is benefited. So.
It's kind of like that. The Vogue signal ocean. About teachers with big hearts and small hearts.
Makes you happy at this time, right? It says a lot about who you are to become and the happiness you'll experience and just the feeling of such unlimited hearts, right? So unlimited, so incredible, and just the level of their. Because when we talk about happiness, and Baba, I liked what he shared the other day, that when there is this impurity, then you don't do good, and when you don't do good, you're not happy. Because he's now, which I think is very accurate, joy and bliss is when we are incorporeal. Happiness is something in the corporeal, and it's linked to the quality of our karmas. So when I act in a way, when I operate in a way that is connected to my most pure stage, I am happy. When I bring purity into action, I am happy. This is the formula that Baba talks about. So it's very connected to operating according to my highest potential. And so when we look at, or allowing this pure heart to operate, when we look at Lakshmi Narayan, their highest potential is just the highest you're going to get in the corporeal stage. So they're constantly operating at that stage, at the very, they never make mistakes, right? They never, like they're always in this very pure. We all are, of course, but their elevated stage is massive. So when Baba said, if you have a good stage, what else do you need? Like, that's what we care about. That's how he wins our heart. So they are operating at this remarkable level in the Golden Age, and that is the source of their constant happiness. What it feels like. I mentioned the fitness class because I've noticed that if we're doing a move, so yesterday I had to teach a class where it was very small. It was almost a semi-private. It was myself and 2 other souls. So it was easy to see. We look and we saw, I could see the 3 of us. And each of them was executing the same exercise, but differently. And so I was thinking for myself, what makes me happy when I'm executing this exercise? Just to be throwing myself around and moving through space, that makes some very happy. But for others, they want to start to be a bit more mindful. So that makes them happy. And for others, they want to be very deeply mindful, right? Not just superficially, everything is looking good, but in an incognito level, I have the proper alignment as I'm doing it. That actually feels great to me. It may not feel great to someone else. So what makes us each happy, even though we're doing the same exercise, it's actually the invisible stuff that's starting to determine what's actually fulfilling to me. Yes, I remembered Baba. Does accurate remembrance pull you at all? Because that's, the Narayan soul had the most accurate remembrance in his final birth. It wasn't just he said Baba, Baba, Baba all the time. We know that because the first endeavor that he made was, I have to master soul consciousness. I am a soul, I am a soul, I am a soul. He wanted such accurate connection. Like that made his heart happy. That was love to him. It made him so... I've noticed in a fitness class that souls are very, very varied of what actually is fulfilling to them. You know, and some tease me about stretching, that I will take so much time after class. Again, last night, I'm sorry I was late, but stretching, and it's like, but I actually, it feels so awful to me. Like, I'm amazed that people just walk out, but I know that feels good to them. Whereas taking the time, that feels incredible. That makes the body, that makes me happy as a soul, that recovery. So what at the confluence age is satisfying to the soul in terms of their effort, I think really maps onto what is that constant habit. Because then what do I create? What level will I be able to operate at in the golden age? Because that is the source of my happiness in the golden age, is when I'm able to sustain what level I reached and sustaining that level. So it has so much to do with efforts at this time. I feel your question. I mean, in terms of the details, okay, I have this many, I don't know, how that, but in terms of what is satisfying to the soul, what degree of accuracy they strive for in their efforts, I think is so valuable at this time. That's what I'm feeling with your question, is what makes me happy at this time. And we see lots of variety, don't we? So, am I happy when Baba says certain things in the Murli, but not happy when he says other things? Or am I constantly happy with everything he says? Like today he was saying, look, things are going to get very strict. And if you're not pure, I will not like it if you come here. Do I enjoy that as much as when Baba says, you are the lights of my eyes, you are the garland around my neck? Is it equally beautiful to me? That says a lot in terms of that constant happiness.
How does that translate in a golden age, right? Because the baseline is happiness, right? There's a certain baseline established. Yes.
I feel it's connected so much to power.
Because the soul has accumulated so much power that they can sustain this level of life. In the golden age they can sustain, whereas others will sustain different levels of life. They can have the power, they took the power to sustain this level, this very high stage.
So like what custom and system do I want to sustain?
Yeah, and just this, again, it translates into the body, because some can get in alignment, but then they cannot sustain it as they walk and move around. It requires incredible power or physical control. So to accumulate that strength to sustain a proper alignment, in terms of the body, that's a very high level of happiness in that it's pain-free. Whereas others have other physical levels of happiness, they have maybe a little more pain, because they don't have the power to sustain that alignment. We know that these souls reach a very elevated stage, but they've accumulated so much power that they can sustain that quality of operating at the. So to me, it's connected to the power piece. How much power do I take from Baba at this time? How much income do I take in, so I can sustain? Because that's something they are sustaining the pure world, a remarkable level of power. Even at this time, we can feel their power in terms of. Again, to me, it's connected to bestowing. But we see that when the daddies come, they make everyone happy. Baba spoke recently about, that your vibration of happiness makes others happy. But you can see that they can hold a large gathering in a very elevated state. The daddies, right? Like that is a high. Like that to me is a glimpse of the golden age, right? That these souls are going to be the leaders, and the happiness of everyone is what, their happiness is so connected to having the power to sustain an elevated community with just your sheer stage. So to me, that happiness is connected to power. They have very high level of power, power of purity, power of spirituality. We call it charisma these days, I think, but yeah. Call it sometimes charisma these days, the capacity to affect a crowd. But yeah, in terms of what that happiness feels like, that's so subjective, right? Again, it's back to, it's the same with pain. I mean, some people, the smallest thing, they're crying, and others, incredible high levels of tolerance. It's so subjective, but if we look in terms of the measures Baba's given us, we know that power of purity is huge. So these souls have accumulated incredible wealth of spiritual power. So they can afford to be happy, very happy. Interesting question to reflect on during the day.
It keeps coming back, and you get answers,
Right.
and then you're good,
Right.
and then again it comes back,
Right.
right? And then
So you have to have a chit chat with Bhaktada, right? He is the teaching.
But yeah, I've always, it's funny your question, because very often when I'm in a fitness class, and literally the thought that comes to my mind at first, because you're the instructor, so you're even when you're taking a class, you're always thinking, like, oh my gosh, the way they're doing that exercise, they're just kind of throwing themselves around. I mean, and then my brain says, look, stop thinking about it. They're happy. They're happy with, there is an absolute that is beneficial, but they're happy with what they're doing. Everyone in that room is happy with what they're doing. They're all doing craziness. So there's got to be someone who's keeping it together, but they're happy. So it's always this particular thought, which suggests the subjective quality of happiness, and it's connected to how you operate, right? I operate in this way, it makes me happy. Subjectively speaking, it's not that beneficial. I'm sorry, objectively it's not that beneficial, but subjectively, doing this makes me happy, right? So what, and the corporeal stage is completely based on happiness, liberation in life. What makes the soul happy? Killing someone makes some people happy, right? Objectively speaking, it's not that beneficial, but that is their happiness of the Iron Age, right? So, because I literally go, how can you do this? And I say, that feels a certain way to you. It's, of course, in a very impure state, so it will be connected to the quality of purity, the power of purity, because a pure soul could never do that, right? What does happiness look like at a time of impurity? It looks crazy, right? Lust is crazy. And Baba's shocked. Lust makes you happy? Wow, are you impure? You know? And he's not insulting, he's absolutely right. Those types of things would not make a sane person happy. To watch movies where there's so much violence and bloodshed, can you imagine a deity doing this? But it makes them happy. And Baba goes, it's a wonder. Your intellects are stone, you're completely impure. Makes total sense, right? So let's make you more pure, so your sensitivities start to change, and what makes you happy will change, right? Again, how you operate, what you do will change. That won't make you happy anymore, so you'll stop doing it. So let's get the purity happening. Nora.
Valerie Ben shares, Baba said, you know Shiva is your Baba. Only he can conquer the hearts of souls. Why? Because he comes and tells us the truth. And this is why we trust him.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question, actually. I just found it very interesting listening to Baba today about, the question and answer. If you don't become pure, knowledge won't sit in your intellect. And there are times when the things he was sharing was so much about incredible recognition of one's true value. So like when he talked about Bharat has to become heaven, this is an account that has to be understood. When he said that you know that you are pure deity. So, sometimes Baba says, when it just comes to even just anyone, they don't have to be in Gyan. They know when it comes to impure, it's more connected to lust than it is about anger, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when I think of lust, I think of about this aspect of value. So I don't mean it like in an intellectual way, but just listening to him, it feels like we can't accept, self-respect when there is a lack of value, ironically speaking. Is that connected in that sense? Like we try to be smart in intellectual knowledge, but we're not remembering him, which will address this lack of value.
Yeah, I mean, first off, where it began, but we have the phrase blinded by desire. So we know that not intellectualism, but purity, that wiggling out from lust is actually what's going to open the eye, allow us to recognize. But second, the wonder that Baba can teach these states. I mean, we go into a bookstore and there's so many books about self-esteem and self-transformation and all these different personal development. And the fact that Baba can teach self-respect, that he can teach purity, he can teach value, he knows exactly what to say, have us reflect on, even with stone intellects, what to reflect on, to move us, is to me remarkable, absolutely remarkable. No one ever thinks of coming up and saying, okay, this is all going to begin by me saying you are a soul. Like that's the first thing that sort of needs to happen here. Of course he has to win our trust. So he says, make sure they understand the authority who's speaking so that they're, open to listening. But he knows how to methodically teach these things so that someone without, because this is when I think sort of symbolically about the dilemma that science has run into in terms of where does life begin? We now know that life doesn't end and it's a cycle, but they have this dilemma, how do you create life? Is it Big Bang Theory? I mean, they're really straight. Theory of evolution. I mean, how did this... And they get so far, and then there's always a gap. There always has to be that leap. And symbolically, it's really about, we have so many ideas out there, but none of them can make that leap into the real thing, right? So Baba comes along, and he simply, we know he's reminding us, but he says things that to our stone intellect, they actually can start to get us moving in the right direction, which is remarkable to me. He says, to the best of your ability, just reflect on this idea that you're a soul. And we do it because it's a cycle. It's fixed in the cycle. I mean, if the drama wasn't so powerful, none of this would actually get out of the ground, no matter how powerful God is. So we do it because it's fixed. We recognize it. It's fixed in the cycle that we do it. But, he just says, you are a soul. He says these things that are designed to create out of nothing. Because this was the issue with how do you create life out of nothing, right? How do you make life out of stone? And he knows how to do it, how to get through our stone intellects. He said, you are a soul to the best of you. And then he says, let's put you in a bhati, let's separate you from your usual influences, even coming to a center, or however he can, even coming online at this point, just get you somehow out of your, and then he says, you are a soul. And that is where the learning value, the learning self-respect, he can teach us these things. He needs a surrendered intellect, he needs complete trust, as Valerie was sharing, but he actually can teach these states. This is going to wiggle me more and more out of the influence of lust, right? Because if so much of a desires are to accumulate self-value, and I'm now learning self-value, and as much as I can take in, and it's different for everyone, which is connected to the happiness question, as much as I can become free that much I'll be able to take in his knowledge. And yeah, in the beginning, it was a lot of very overt love, right? Such a overt love to get souls to surrender, surrender the intellect, surrender the heart, to listen to him, to experience what he's saying. So that then, once I taste what he's saying, finally, I experience the value of the self. Finally. And then it's like, wow, I'm not suddenly hungry for all those other things that I was hungry for, because they were, of course, sources of personal value. And that's when I can really start to appreciate what he's saying, start to take it in. So I don't know if the thing that touches me the most is that he can teach these things that everyone's trying so hard, not knowing it's connected to purity.
I think just listening to sharing it, I was really, I'm always checking in when Baba says your soul, is that meaningful to me? Is that really meaningful to me? And just when you're sharing about purity, then it really, again, made me really appreciate how we can just sort of kind of make it a show or something. We don't want to, but just devotion and so forth. But like ultimately, it feels like it condenses to the fact that what he says, everything about the knowledge has to reach me, the soul. Mm-hmm. As long as it's still something out there, it can never really the medicine can never reach me.
Yeah, when Baba says, that only the Supreme Soul can change souls into deities. Human beings try and change human beings into valuable beings, right? But only the Supreme Soul can change souls into deities, that he can really reach us. Yeah. There was one other thought and it's completely gone, so it might be a sign.
I think the last thing when Baba said, remember the Father who makes you become like that, and I think connected to being a soul, I can see where, Baba, I'm not sure where he was sharing it, but or maybe it was Daddy Gozar in a class that, children seem to be laboring so much trying to remember. And I wonder if it's connected to that piece. If I'm not really accepting who I am, and I can't if I'm not experiencing being a soul. Mm-hmm. It's like this whole thing he said about if there's impurity, you can't accept the knowledge.
I did just remember the last thing. I was really touched, I think everyone probably was, when Baba said to remember him with patience, depth, and sincerity. And the patience one was so beautiful, and sort of, I'm sure we're all reflecting and experimenting. But one of the things that touched me about that was that for so many births, we remembered him as devotees. And whenever you're physically learning or relearning, but trying to get a healthy mechanic back after you've developed the habit of an unhealthy one, whenever you go to do anything, the unhealthy one is the first to kick in, and you actually have to kind of wait, kind of stop and wait in order for the healthy one to kick in. So when we're remembering him, we sort of have to go a little bit deep. What I was discovering is each one led to the next, that the patience led to the depth, and the depth led to the sincerity. That I don't want to sort of remember him in the old ways, or, eventually that will, of course, be in a second. But whenever you are relearning a mechanic, you kind of have to slow things down and sort of take a moment to check that, okay, I haven't slipped into the old, I'm actually doing it accurately. So this patience of moving through any traces of bhakti to get to that meaningful connection, that really meaningful, real connection, which would have depth. So it always takes time to go deep. So, to really always taking a moment, and you see that when people are doing it physically, is that they'll start and then they'll have to go slower. So, if someone's had a stroke and they're learning how to walk, it's slower because they have to think what's become natural to us. They actually have to think very deliberately about each step, and I felt Baba wants us to be quite intentional and deliberate in the care with which we're doing these different directions he's giving us, to make sure it's not just ritual or rote or devotional, But really that there is I'm getting full benefit that there is that accuracy. And it's not to make it technical or dry or devoid of heart, because I think that's, our heart would be engaged because we're getting, it's so meaningful to us, but to slow things down a little bit so that there is the chance for that depth to go beneath the superficial, the surface, so that it is meaningful. So when they'll say, look at the picture of Lakshmi and Ryan, or sit in front of the pictures, and it's like, I sit, and if I am patient, I will have deeper and deeper experiences. Or say, I am a soul, I'm a soul. And if I just sort of go through it, I'm a soul, I'm a soul, he says, no, no, no. Take a moment for the penny to drop. It's pretty remarkable to say, I am a soul. I'm a different species from what I was. So giving time for the experience to actually blossom or unfold. So
Make
it
me
is
think of the
deeper.
word effort and what that really means.
Mhm.
Not labor,
Being
bang
very
your head on
intentional.
something.
Yeah, very attentive. Mm-hmm.
Sheila Ben here shares, Man Bhav will make us pure.
Mm.
Purity is the key to becoming okay, and everyone is okay with me.
Baba definitely wants us okay. I'm okay, and everyone's okay with me.
And I'm okay with everyone.
Yes, definitely that last one. Take a moment of silence. Shanti.